It's hard not to be worried about money these days with the rising cost of everything. Even if you're making a decent income, you'd still probably be facing some degree of financial anxiety or stress. And to make it worse, whenever you go on social media these days, there are hundreds of these 20-something-year-old millionaires who are either forex traders or dropshipping gurus or entrepreneurs or whatever they claim to be. And it's hard not to compare yourself to them and think, what am I doing with my life? Then even when you look at some of your own friends and you see people that you know who are constantly traveling or eating at nice restaurants and having all the fancy toys, but despite all that, we gotta remember that social media doesn't always paint an accurate picture, and most people only post the highlight reels, the good parts that they want other people to see. When in reality, most people who seem like they have it all in life, like the nice cars or the fancy new toys, are usually spending everything they make, and some of them might even be buried in consumer debt. Everybody has a different set of problems that we don't know about, and your situation might not be as bad as you think. Here are some signs that you're doing well financially, even if it doesn't feel like it. So let's go through them and see which ones apply to you. The first sign that you're probably doing well financially is that you're focused on growing your net worth. So you're not just trying to make more money just because you want to buy a nicer car or a bigger house or the latest tech gear, but you realize that the goal of making money is to build real wealth, which ultimately buys you freedom so that you're not gonna need to be a slave to your job or even to your business if you're an entrepreneur. If you're focused on keeping the money that you make instead of spending it, you've got the right mindset, and that is a huge step towards actually becoming wealthy. What I like to do is to kind of see it like a game where I try to see if I'm able to survive the day without spending more than $100 or however much your typical daily expenses are. And then I get to carry over the balance to the next day, and I've become almost obsessed with seeing the balance grow at the end of the month, which directly adds to the amount in my net worth, no matter how small it might be. Now, all of the signs kind of go hand in hand with each other, and the second sign is that you're not concerned with trying to look rich. And I get that this is hard because for a lot of us, society has conditioned us to think that we need to have the status symbols to signal that we're successful. In fact, I spent a good portion of my 20s being so caught up in just trying to hustle as hard as I could, only to dump the money I made on status symbols just so I could look successful. I had to learn it the hard way that the quickest way to go broke is to try and look rich. So if you're already someone who's not caught up in trying to buy flashy things or having status symbols, then you are way ahead compared to the majority of people who are still playing the stupid game of constantly trying to flex. It's like a never-ending measuring contest. Okay, number 3, you have some emergency funds saved and set aside, and it doesn't have to be a big amount. I know a lot of financial experts often recommend this being 3 to 6 months worth of expenses, but I think even if you have anything between $1,000 to $2,000 saved, you're in a decent place, because sometimes things happen in life, like if your car breaks down or if you need to get a dental procedure done. At least you won't need to depend on a credit card or even borrow money from friends or family. Of course, the goal is ultimately to have a 3 to 6 month emergency fund set aside, but having some money saved is obviously better than nothing at all. Now, number 4, you follow finance-related content creators. See, if you watch finance-related content on a regular basis, you would definitely have some degree of financial literacy, and also you'll end up just naturally, subconsciously working towards making better financial decisions based on what you've been hearing repeatedly. There's a saying that you become the average of the 5 people you hang out with the most, and I absolutely agree with that. But now in the age of social media, I also think you'll become the average of the content that you consume the most. And beyond that, if you're also making an effort to constantly learn about money and investing, and you're attending courses and reading books on the topic, then you're definitely on the right track, and you're probably doing way better financially than you think. The next sign that you're doing well financially is that you often talk about money, and specifically about achieving financial freedom and the whole FIRE movement. For a lot of people, money seems to be a taboo topic, and it's something you won't normally discuss with your friends and family, but I think talking about it would actually help you get different perspectives depending on who you discuss it with. But most importantly, if you often find yourself talking about things relating to money and how to achieve financial freedom, then it shows that this is something that is important to you and is something that you actively think about. And as a result of that, what usually happens is when we put our energy and focus towards something, we'll naturally tend to grow in that particular area. All right, next, you have an investing plan. Now, even if you haven't actually started investing yet, which you should, having a plan of how you're going to invest your money shows that you have done your research and have given it some thought and have weighed out your options, whether it be through a retirement account like the 401k or a Roth IRA, or to invest in individual stocks, or to periodically buy shares of an ETF and DCA your way into it. Whatever it may be, Having an investment plan is absolutely critical if you want to be financially successful, so that's a sign that you're on the right track. Now, some of the things that I talked about here might not necessarily relate to money in the sense of the actual dollars that you have or that you're making, but a lot of it has to do with your mindset and your habits and the type of person that you are, because that is ultimately going to determine your success or failure. Because you're gonna have to change and grow into the person who's gonna become wealthy. For me, I honestly can say that my 20-year-old self was clearly not ready to handle large amounts of money because I haven't grown into the person who'd be capable of earning and managing large amounts of wealth. So even if you're not seeing the actual dollars rolling in, you have to trust the process that you're on your way to becoming the type of person that would be able to generate a large income and scale your wealth. And by watching videos like this, you're constantly learning and hopefully taking the steps necessary to move you closer towards your goals. Doing well financially isn't just about having the Lambos and the APs. In fact, a sign that you're doing well financially is if you're able to pay your bills on time. According to this NASDAQ article, nearly half of all Americans struggle to pay their utility bills, and most people are forced to choose which bill to pay for the particular month, which leads them to getting charged late fees and a bunch of additional charges, leading to lower credit scores and even more financial stress as a result. And this ultimately affects their judgment to make good financial decisions. So it's truly a blessing if you're able to pay your bills on time without needing to go through all that. And it's definitely a huge sign that you're doing well financially. Another sign is that you use automation to pay your bills. See, we're only human, and you're probably busy with a million other things on your mind, and so there's always a chance that you forget to pay a bill. And because of an honest, innocent mistake, you'd be at risk of hurting your credit score and be subjected to all sorts of ridiculous late fees and interest charges, especially with credit cards that have an interest rate of over 20%. So to avoid all that, it just makes sense to automate your payments using AutoPay, which would allow the payments to be made automatically, and that way you won't be at risk of missing any of them. I've done this for all of my bills for years now, and I love the fact that I don't even have to think about them and take the time to log into each individual app and make the payments each month. All right, the next sign that you're doing well financially is that you live as though you don't have money, even though you do. In other words, you live a very simple lifestyle and spend below your means. This means you're making an effort to save by either packing your own lunch or meal prepping, and you don't buy things that you don't absolutely need. And simply by doing this, you'll be able to avoid lifestyle inflation, where the more you make, then you go out to dinner more often and feel this need to show off more. This is the huge mindset shift that I often talk about, where we shouldn't play the status game where you tie your self-worth to the material things that you have, and instead start to value the right things, because wealth and income are two separate things altogether. There are high income earners who are not necessarily rich, so detach yourself from what society thinks success looks like, and if you're able to do that, you're probably doing pretty well financially. Next, you avoid friends or people in general who spend money frivolously. I had some friends in the past who would be working minimum wage jobs, and when they got paid, the first thing they'd be talking about is to hit the clubs or go out to shop for new clothes, which I think is absolutely ridiculous. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not against having fun, but I just don't think you need to spend a lot of money in order to have fun. So over the years, I've been more intentional with choosing who I spend my time with, and I avoid hanging out with those who spend money carelessly, because like the saying goes, you become the average of the people you hang out with. The next sign that you're doing well financially is you track your expenses and have a budget planned out. Whether you do this on a spreadsheet or an app like the Wallet app, which I highly recommend you guys checking out, tracking your expenses would almost directly linked to you spending less money overall, because you're able to see all of your expenses at a glance and see how your money's flowing in and out of your account. And so just psychologically, you're gonna wanna see less of your hard-earned money being spent on unnecessary things. Especially if you use credit cards to pay for things, it often doesn't have the same psychological effect as compared to when you're paying with cash, where you see the cash physically leaving your hand. So for me, I like using the Wallet app because you can link it directly to your bank account and have all the transactions be automatically reflected on it. And then finally, one of the most important signs that you've got a hold on things financially is if you don't make any impulse purchases. I know far too many people who often end up ordering the latest gadgets or clothes or accessories or whatever fancy thing they see on an Instagram ad or on one of those cool Amazon finds, and just mindlessly spend their money on these random things just because they felt like they wanted it when they saw it. I think one of the biggest determining factors as to whether someone's going to be able to be financially successful is their ability to delay any sort of instant gratification. So if you're someone who doesn't make purchases on impulse, then you're definitely on the right track. So I hope you guys could relate to most of the things that we talked about in this video. And remember that if you don't have to worry about where your next meal is going to come from, then you are actually richer than a lot of people in this world. We often take these things for granted because we're so caught up with the material things and forget to realize that there are more valuable things than that, like your health and having your loved ones around. All right, if you guys enjoyed this video, please drop a like below and consider subscribing. Now, in the meantime, check out this video to see the dumbest money mistakes that I personally made in my 20s that you must avoid. For now, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.